So today, like in my IRL, is a whirlwind of crazy events that all started with my kitchen actually getting finished. My brand new kitchen in a completely different place in the house than it was before. Wild, wild, absolutely crazy project, but it's gorgeous. And because it was finished, I started thinking, hey, maybe the kids can have a birthday party at the house now. And Soap Clay Kidlet number one decided she wanted an epic sleepover bash. And so, in just a few hours, that's what we will be starting. And so, I am here with you before that begins because wow, is it going to be a lot? It's going to be a lot of fun though. So, I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, here's my adult time with you because I'm about to have 10 screaming girls in my house. And if you could, drink one for me tonight, because I can't drink while I'm taking care of other people's children, obviously. I'd sure appreciate it, for sure. But that has nothing to do with what we're making, except that the things that I made were also for these kids, like the school kids, and whatever. I'll tell you more about all of that in just a minute. But before I do, hello, I am Mrs. Soap and Clay. Let's make stuff. How's it going, Sudzers? Welcome back to the channel. You are at Soap and Clay, where we make all the soapy things. And you are here for week 3 of year 3 of soapy stuff. And today we're not making soapy stuff, we're making bath bomb stuff. And we're playing with the airbrush thing that I told you about a couple months ago that Mr. Soap and Clay had bought for me. And I thought it was a makeup airbrush. I decided to use it anyway, because why not? And so many people have told me that they just use the super cheapo ones from like Amazon for like 40 bucks. And I'm like, well, then I'm just doing something wrong. This one should work as well. So I decided to use it. And that's what you're going to see today. Basically, the beginning stages of me testing the ratios of stuff that needs to go into the solution with which to spray. So the micas and the rubbing alcohols, can we put some glycerin in it? Maybe some poly? I don't know. So that's what we're going to start playing with. And I'm going to be making some very cute crocodiles for an event that I did with the PTA for a movie night that they hosted for all the kids. So let's get to the video and we can talk more about my weird airbrushing skills. Okay, so today we are playing with the, crocodiles that I made for the school for an event where we rented out the, whole movie theater. It was very cool. And, then did the movie Lyle Crocodile. And so I was asked by the PTA to make some crocodiles. And so I'm using a, vacuum seal mold guy here for this that I picked up from, I think, Wild Time. That sounds right and good. And yeah, it's actually with these little, shaped bath bombs that I've been playing with, it's been a lot of fun, but I have been having one heck of a time kind of figuring out what ratio of powder that we actually need for inside of the bombs, right? For inside the molds, because it kind of varies depending on if you're doing a vacuum or a the 3D mold things. And 2, the kind of ratios that are needed for the painting of the bath bombs if you're using, an airbrush. And I got it in my head throughout all of this because I've been on this weird kick with doing all these fun things with the shaped bombs that I'm essentially going to I don't know, mad scientist this whole thing and figure out the answers to both, because there's also different recipes that people recommend for a 3D, bath bomb mold versus a vacuum seal versus a whatever else. And some of these recipes are wild. Like there was one recipe that I was listening to or that I had seen on a website after buying a mold that was like 14 different products in one bath bomb recipe. And as we've said multiple times with all of my bath bomb recipes, I don't like to, over encumber the recipes. I like to keep it as simple as possible, delivering an excellent fizzy, floating, long fizz bath bomb, but still ensuring the integrity of the bomb itself. So, i.e., it's not soft or fragile, so they won't break. And in a lot of instances, when you're adding things like, your artificial bubblers, like your SCI, your SLSA, that tends to dry out the bath bombs and actually starts to eat the citric acid within the actual product. And so you end up with a, kind of sad and lackluster fizz. And so I want to really get into this mad scientist deep dive with the recipes, of course, but also with this whole airbrush spraying thing. Now, to this airbrush spraying thing, this is an airbrush that Mr. Soap and Clay bought me that I talked about in an intro of a video a few weeks ago. And I think it was meant to be a makeup airbrush system, but also to that, I've talked to so many people that do airbrushing and they're like, no, yeah, totally. I just pick up a cheap, like $30 one off Amazon and it works great. And I'm like, but I have already broken one. So I have to fix it is the point. Like I have to figure it out. I'm breaking something and it's not cool. And this one actually worked pretty well. Now the gravity feed on all of this, I like because it means that you get all of the product, like it all gets used. But the downside to that is because micas don't actually ever really disperse. That's not what you're getting with all of that. They will start to settle if your solution is not viscous enough. And when they're settling, essentially what that means is you're putting on a lot more rubbing alcohol than you would need to, actually color a bomb. And the rubbing alcohol can have a very drying effect. Also, speaking to the citric acid, it's eating that away and it leads to a fragile bath bomb after a few days, as well as, a bath bomb that doesn't fizz as well. And so I was very keen on trying to figure out these ratios while, of course, making, a bajillion alligators or crocodiles for the PTA event. So that was fun. So ultimately, the actual painting of the green wasn't that problematic, right? It laid down reasonably easy, which was good. And the ratios that I used were actually pretty light on the green itself. Now, for the green that I used, I have no idea, actually. I don't know. I'll have to look it up. But when I went to try to airbrush a white on, I've read very interesting information about how you can't really use any white that has like titanium dioxide in it because it's bad if you're like you're blowing, the airbrush system. It's because inhaling the particles, super bad idea. So I would definitely recommend always using a mask with all of this regardless, because there's a lot of stuff that's just in the air at the end of all of this. So it's in your best interest to protect those lungs. But I didn't have a good time laying down the white that I had used regardless. And so after just attempting it one time, I decided that I needed to come back to the white ratios and what could be used, and ultimately decided just to paint them. So because, titanium dioxide in of itself, not dangerous to, have in products or whatever, but it's the airborne bit that has actually caused a lot of, lung problems for people over the years, mostly people that like mine the stuff. But anyway, the painting, no issue because it's not airborne and it does lay it down really well. And also to that, I don't actually know that my skills for airbrushing are good enough to just do 2 little eyeball spots. And the reason why I don't think that they're that good enough or that they're good enough is because I did try it with the airbrush and it super didn't work out. Like I got the white all over the place. And so sort of figuring out the situation and the layering of this gets painted first and then we paint that, whatever. It was quite wild. It was very much a fun process to determine all of that, because this is legitimately, while it's very rare that I can say, there's something in the soap and cosmetics making world that I'm unfamiliar with, this whole airbrushing thing and really decorating bath bombs outside of, rolling them in some mica or doing a drizzle or, the normal things that I do with bath bombs, this is legitimately a new thing for me. And so it's a different type of process in getting a new system down, which is fun in some ways, but also kind of scary and a little bit frustrating in others, But luckily for me with all of these, I had hundreds and hundreds to make. So I got to play around with all the different ways that you could do it. Ultimately, these bath bombs all ended up looking like, these guys. So with the eyeballs, and then I like fill in the nose and do the smile with a black mica that I'm just painting on. Now, when I paint bath bombs, like when I've made the poke bombs or whenever I put any sort of painting, decoration on bath bombs, they're usually pretty minimal unless it's the poke bombs and then I go all out. But two, I use a slurry of alcohol, rubbing alcohol, and glycerin in equal parts, and just a little teeny tiny bit of mica. Now, while that works really well for painting, especially with the glycerin inclusion with all of it, I have found that the little teeny tiny bit of mica doesn't work super good for airbrushing. So in like tomorrow's video, we're super going to talk more about that and actually talk about the amount of mica that actually has to be used with the rubbing alcohol in order to really lay it down. And there they are, some super cute crocodiles for Lyle Crocodile. And they were a lot of fun to make. Because I had to make so many of them, I really started to get into the groove of figuring out the right consistency for the spray solution. Because again, if you logic this out, air sprayers are usually used for thicker stuff, right? For paints, for makeup, for things like that. And so if you're just running rubbing alcohol through it, it's a very thin solution. And since mica doesn't actually disperse and it's heavier than a rubbing alcohol by a factor of a lot, you're always going to get that drop unless you have something else viscous in it to help it, suspend. And so I have been having good success with glycerin so far, and we will be trying poly 80 or poly 20 soon to see, if that does essentially the same thing. I did end up breaking this air sprayer anyway, but not because I like clogged it with the wrong solution or whatever, more because I was cleaning it all proper like and had it all taken apart. So just the very thin needle, well, the chamber was exposed at the end, and I dropped the stylus, bent it, and there was no coming back at that point. So I did have to go ahead and finally get myself a proper one, and that proper one is epic. So you will see that in its full glory form awesomeness in the next couple videos for sure. But that's my crocodile bath bombs. They're very cute. And those crocodile bath bombs are not available at soapandclay.com because I just made them for the school for, the event. So that was a one-off. They're all done. But there's other stuff over there if you want to go check it out. That would be awesome. For me, I'm out of here. Thank you guys, Sudsers, so much for existing and being you and being here. And talk to me in the comments tonight, please. So I have a reason to be like, oh, hold on. Something very important is coming up. And I can detach a little bit from all of this. Like I said, it is going to be a really fun party. We built these epic tents for them, and it's all indoors. So it's indoor tent, it's glamping, whatever. It's going to be a really good time, but it's also kind of a lot. So I'm already getting tired just thinking of it. But luckily I have coffee. So again, I am out of here. Again, thank you. I will see you guys all again tomorrow for another round of bath bomb-y fun. Bye.